If becoming a homemaker suddenly turns your husband into an abusive piece of crap, he was always a piece of crap. Because if you're saying, don't become a homemaker because your husband will exploit you, you're saying that the only thing stopping my husband from exploiting me is making sure I have a career. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and I run the blog called Mrs. Midwest. Today we are doing another chatty commentary video inspired by some content I've been seeing on Reels that has been frustrating me, as well as some extended thoughts from our video I did earlier in the summer entitled What is Going On? My notes for today's video are a little bit scattered, but I promise to bring my points home because today we're going to be discussing the topic of don't marry a man who hates you. The criticism I see is don't become a homemaker because it exposes you to exploitation and abusive power by a man. Don't become a homemaker because you'll end up in financial ruin. Don't become a homemaker because what if he leaves you? Don't become a homemaker because you're gonna end up in a bad spot. It's like a carte blanche kind of thing. Like, if you become a homemaker, bad things will happen. So we must discourage women to do this at all costs. And I was just, that argument has never landed with me. And so on my walk recently, I was thinking, why does that argument not make sense to me? Why does it not land? What is wrong with it? And why do they keep saying it? And I was thinking it through. If becoming a homemaker suddenly turns your husband into an abusive piece of crap, he was always a piece of crap. He was always a piece of crap. Let that sink in. Because if you're saying, don't become a homemaker because your husband will exploit you, you're saying that the only thing stopping my husband from exploiting me is making sure I have a career. So what we really should be saying then is don't get married, because what exposes you to men, what exposes you to an abusive power by men? Marriage, uniting with a man for the rest of your life. That's what you're actually worried about. It's not homemaking. If becoming a homemaker causes your husband to mistreat you, he was always that person. I think what people are getting at is that homemaking makes you vulnerable. But if you're under the impression that you can protect yourself from ever being vulnerable from your husband throughout the length of a marriage, you're deceiving yourself. There are proven statistics, I have it pulled up right here, that the divorce or separation rate for men with cancer is 2.9%. But when it's the woman, the wife who has cancer, the divorce rate jumps to 20%. I just my nose twitch. That's just so disgusting. Not to mention the statistic that pregnant women are more likely to die by murder from their husbands or baby daddy or whoever rather than childbirth. Men cheat on postpartum and pregnant women at high rates. And like I said, there's the good old cancer statistic. What am I saying here other than, wow, that's tragic? I'm saying that there are all times when you're going to be vulnerable with your husband. So the fact here is that marriage is what exposes you to bad men. And it's not the homemaking that makes your husband become a piece of crap. That just takes the mask off because you're dependent on him. Like women who become cancer patients or postpartum women or pregnant women. So why did I want to make today's video? I know that might seem a little all over the place, but I'm going to connect it for you here. Today I want to urge you, and I'm thinking of the single women watching this video. I'm thinking of the women who haven't quite yet said yes to her proposal. I'm thinking of people who are considering what they want in a husband, because a lot of you like to come to my channel and you might see me as a bit of a source of advice. And it's scary to hear, don't become a homemaker because you'll be exploited. And that sounds like, oh my goodness, maybe I should avoid becoming a homemaker. But then maybe you put your blinders on and you just choose whoever and you get married without realizing hardship can happen with men regardless of whether or not you become a homemaker. Like I said, a career should not be a safety feature to not being exploited. The safety feature should be not marrying men who hate you. So going into the idea of how as homemakers, why is this so important? I guess I'm just trying to say today, it's not more important for homemakers to avoid bad men than it is career women. Because career women can have their lives totally destroyed by men the same way homemakers can. And why are we so focused on men today? Well, that's the topic of today's video. I'm not here to say all men are bad. I love my husband. I have a wonderful husband. I'm just here to send out a warning and some advice for what we should be looking for when we're looking for husbands. And the next time someone says don't become a homemaker because you're going to get exploited, I would like to say you might as well just say don't get married because you're going to be exploited. Because if becoming a homemaker is what causes your husband to suddenly hate you, he always hated you. Okay, that's the sad reality. And also, you should not be a commodity to your husband where your emotional labor and physical labor, bringing in children, taking care of the house, women are statistically way more likely to be in charge of those things, even with a career. Okay, that counts for something. Your presence counts for something. Like I said in my What is Going On video, not all men deserve a wife. Not all men are worthy of a wife. Scripture even says that a good wife is worth more than rubies, okay? That's where my mindset's coming from. Not some sort of girl boss modern mindset, but rather a biblical mindset of how we as women should be choosing our life partners, what we should be looking for, and how we should be balancing our desires for being a homemaker, a wife, a mother, and the urgency that comes with the biological clock with wisdom and waiting for people who will cherish us and our children and make life wonderful. Because like I said at the top of the video, the purpose of my channel is to get us to a place where we are thriving and cherished. I don't actually care whether or not that's career woman, homemaker, traditional, liberal, conservative. I don't care. What I care about is you being treated right and for you to thrive and know the Lord and feel peace and joy and all of that good stuff. And that's why today, let's dive in. That was a long interlude. I would say that's the basis and the foundation for why I think it's so important to say to young women, don't marry a man who hates you. We're not going to go into my advice of what if you're already married to a man who hates you. That's not the topic of today's video. Fight amongst yourselves in the comments over that. But I want to kind of draw this to the biblical idea because I know that might sound super modern. The idea of a man who hates you. What am I getting at with that? Hate is such a strong word. It's like, well, Caitlin, obviously I wouldn't marry a man who hates me. I'm going to marry the man who says he loves me. Cool. Just because someone says they love you doesn't mean they love you. I'm sorry, honey, sweetheart, beautiful, if you haven't learned that lesson in life. Some of us have had to learn that the hard way with family or exes or whoever. Most of us intrinsically know that. But words are not enough. Looking good on paper is not enough. It is how they treat you that matters. And it's not obvious because the man who hates you might not necessarily be throwing you down the staircase or gaslighting you or cheating on you. But little signals can show if he hates you. And we're going to talk about what those are. So if we're talking about men who will take advantage of homemakers, treat them like a maid, disrespect, it's the same men who are awful to career women, okay? It's not special to being traditional. Maybe more controlling men are more drawn to, oh, I like the idea of a housewife because I can order her around. Okay, well, lazy men might be drawn to a career woman because, oh, I can take home her paycheck and be lazy and not help, okay? We all have our cross to bear no matter the lifestyle, and we all need to go in eyes wide open to look for potential red flags, whether you stay home or not. The men who will take advantage of you are bad men. It's men who hate women. It's not exclusive to men who are conservative or liberal or whatever that is in your country. Doesn't matter what your religion is. These people are found everywhere. This is more common than you think it is. Because like I said, it's not just obvious abuse. This is men who aren't supportive. Men who don't want to see you thrive. They want you to be insecure. They want you to be overworked, overextended, taking care of them like a maid or a mommy. They're not protecting you from their family. Men who hate you. Because men who love you wouldn't do that. I understand that this topic isn't talked a lot about in non-feminist circles because a lot of us are thriving in happy traditional marriages and lifestyles. Like, why would I be here if I wasn't happy? Why would I be encouraging other people to consider this if it wasn't working and I wasn't happy? I mean, maybe some people do that, but that's so evil and sinister. But I think it's intellectually dishonest to pretend like bad men don't exist and that this problem doesn't happen. And I think for people who have bad experience with men, maybe fathers who walked out on them, exes, whatever, they come to the homemaking community or they see it on Reels and it's like horrifying because they picture, oh, if I was a homemaker to my dad or my ex, like I would have been left out on the streets. And it's really hard to put yourself in a position to imagine being a homemaker. But the problem isn't becoming a homemaker. The problem is the type of men you're choosing. This is why I've had so many videos on my channel about red flags, traditional men, who to look for, how to align your life goals, how to date properly, because this stuff starts from the very beginning. Why does it matter? Like how your man treats you. Why does it matter? Well, I think it's unbiblical. How can we reach the standard upheld in the Bible with a man who treats women disrespectfully? I think, frustratingly, people picture Christians and they picture the homemaking community and it's like, oh, those people protect abusers and they encourage the exploitation of women. I would like to say, whoa, hold up. Let's return to scripture and let's see how scripture talks about marriage. Let's see how scripture talks about protecting women, upholding them. Like I said, scripture says, oh, a good wife is more precious than rubies, more rare. The scripture goes over how men are supposed to lay their life down for their wives. That's in the New Testament. Jesus talks about how we're supposed to love our neighbor. You think that stops with we're just supposed to treat strangers nicely, but not the wife in our own home? No, scripture upholds a beautiful picture of marriage. And when followed correctly, you will be supported and loved and cherished and peaceful in your home. Like I am. Again, we're not perfect, but we're trying to live out a biblical marriage, and it doesn't look the way fear-mongering internet people will make you think it looks. So a man is supposed to lay down his life for his wife, his woman. Do we think that the husband playing Xbox in the delivery room and complaining about the hospital chair after his baby was born is laying his life down for his woman? Do we think that the husband looking around and leering at other women at the amusement park is laying his life down for his wife? Do we think that the man who makes fun of his wife or criticizes her or is harsh with her is laying his life down for his wife? No. These men can't even lay down their complaints for their wife. These men can't even lay down their comfort for their wife. They can't even lay down their own attitude, their own pride. They can't even lay down their own needs for their wife, let alone the future children you'll have. So why do we marry these men? Okay, and again, if you're not understanding what I'm talking about men who inherently disrespect women. This one reel I saw, I'll insert it if I can. Can't make up my mind, can't make up my mind. Do I like him, or is he just ignoring me? Do I want his attention? So disturbing. She's carrying your child and you're gonna make fun of her. You know, I think people think it's easy to spot men who hate women, but it really isn't, because they mask things in joking, in sincerity, little nagging kind of things that get at you. They want you to feel uncertain. They'll do cruel pranks on you. They'll be rough with you, harsh with you. And I think as women, we've been told this message to just toughen up, take the joke, have a thick skin. He's just joking. It's not a big deal. And we minimize our emotions. But you know what, girls? God gave you those emotions to signal danger. And you're not too sensitive. You're not wrong. It's okay to feel uncomfortable by some of the stuff these men do. It's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel sensitive to this stuff because it keeps us alive. It keeps us thriving and it keeps us protected. We have been living for generations and generations, and if these sensitive emotions that many of us women carry were not helpful to our survival, it would have been breeded out of human beings a long time ago. Trust yourself, trust your gut.
My ex used to push me into things, trees, bushes, trip me in public. things like that, and he thought it was funny. And weirdly, I guess I conditioned myself, or he conditioned me into thinking it was funny also.
These small instances of disrespect that you can look toward to kind of inform yourself on whether or not this man is going to just totally have my back when I'm, 50 pounds overweight after my pregnancy and I'm lower than low. Is this man going to love me till my deathbed? Is he going to avert his eyes from other women? Is he going to love my children? Is he going to love me forever? And that's not too much to ask for from a husband. That's literally their function and purpose. I think also there's this horrible standard from some of the older generations. Like you guys all know the Gen X or the boomer guy who jokes about the old ball and chain. Maybe men who never changed a diaper, who totally disregard like the efforts of their wives to start their families and bear children. It's been totally normalized to gloss over this stuff. And I think the answer isn't to say, avoid all men, avoid marriage, never become a homemaker, because the dream of so many of us is to become a homemaker and a stay-at-home mom to a man who cherishes and loves us. And that was my dream. And if I had just been told to never pursue it because bad things would happen, I wouldn't be living the happy life I am now. So my encouragement isn't to avoid a career or avoid becoming a homemaker. My encouragement is to really pay attention to your gut when you're dating, and beyond, oh, he wants a homemaker as a wife, and beyond, oh, he's a Christian, really listen to how this person loves you or hates you and acknowledge that that can happen. I don't always do this, but I kind of wanted to share some personal examples of my experience with, girl, he hates you. Using some of my exes. And I'm sure these people are lovely now with beautiful families. I truly don't know. I've since moved countries. It's hard to keep up with people when you move countries and kind of change identities and all of that. But, so anyways, when I was 15, I got my first boyfriend. Nothing serious. We were young. I'm sure he's lovely now. But the relationship did not go well because I just noticed a couple things about him that like signaled to me that this man does not love me the way I need him to. And I know it's a young relationship and usually those don't last, but sometimes high school sweethearts last forever. So let's just in our heads take it seriously. So he was intent on becoming a doctor, but he wanted me to become a nurse. And if you've been on my channel for a couple years, you know how hilarious that concept is. And this wasn't after just getting to know me for a week. It was like 6 months, and he was like intent on convincing me to go this science route through high school, because in Canada we kind of had to choose that early on, like, are you going to do science or art or whatever. He wanted me to go down the science track so I could go to be in a medical field with him, and his big dream was he'd be a doctor and I'd be a nurse. And it was like, do you even know me? Do you even know me? Like, I was very similar to how I am now. I wanted to be a mom or a homemaker, or I wanted to stay home part-time, maybe work in journalism, fashion design, kind of like this type of work. It didn't exist back then when I was that young, but this type of work where I'm talking to you guys right now, public speaking, women's conferences, that kind of thing, creative work, cerebral work, that type of stuff, but more in the humanities or religion, not in stitching people up or cleaning like people up in the hospital. Like, it just really made me feel like, wow, this guy, not only does he not know me, he didn't care when I was like, ew, no, I could never do that. He was just like, oh yes, you can. Like, trying to gaslight me into choosing like a career that would make him happy. Like, okay, red flag, but I was young, so I was kind of like, oh, that's weird. But then part of me too, why we choose men like this, I could feel part of me being like, oh, well, like insecure about who I was. The fact that I wasn't the type of girl who could easily become a nurse. It made me feel insecure. And so then I just kind of like brushed it off, right? Fast forward into the relationship by a couple months, and some people come to me and they say like, oh, we saw your boyfriend flirting with so-and-so in theater class. And that was like drama class. That was the one class I didn't have with him. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back, because that one's a little more obvious. Some people overlook like mild signs of cheating. I never have. And it wasn't cheating. It wasn't two-timing, but it was disrespectful. And I had had enough of the disrespect. And that was the wake-up call I needed to be like, wow, this guy kind of like hates me. So I broke up with him. And he didn't like that, and we were like mortal enemies for the rest of high school. But that's how young relationships go. My next example has happened to me in every single relationship except my current one. So I meet a guy. I like him. He likes me. We're kind of seeing each other. We decide to be a little bit exclusive. It's early days. And then somewhere along the way in a conversation, he like drops the truth bomb that I'm not his type. Like, my type is usually this or whatever. And it's like something that looks nothing like me. Like petite, athletic, slim girls or brown. I usually prefer brown eyes. Or I prefer brown eyes. Like some sort of way to signal to me that I am not their like dream girl. I like smooth it over, but I always filed that away in my back pocket. Like, oh, okay, maybe you just like said some word vomit, or maybe you're trying to do something more sinister here. And I, without fail, broke up with all those people, and that was one of the reasons. Like, it wasn't the reason I broke up with them, but it was like this amalgamation of disrespect and intentionally trying to hurt me that I gathered together as like evidence for why I should not be with these men. Why? Because deep down, they hated me. One of the reasons a guy will say, "You're not my type," is to neg you about your appearance and to set the standard early on that you're not good enough for him the way you are. There's like something you're missing that you cannot give him. You're not ideal. You're not his ideal. But you know what, buddy? I can't take 4 inches off my height. I can't turn into a natural brunette or have natural brown eyes or be 4 sizes smaller. So you know what? Oh, I'm not your ideal type. Okay, bye. Good luck finding her. And also with that, without fail, they will always chase after you and be like, wait, no, I didn't mean it. But you know what? When a guy tells you stuff like that, whether or not what he's saying is real or true, we don't need to dig into that. The point is the heart behind it. And a man who has a heart of supporting you and cherishing you would never say those words to you. Fast forward again, husband. From day one, I have been his ideal type. He loves my blonde hair. He's obsessed with my freckles. He loves my blue eyes. He's just happy with the weight I am, the shape I am, no matter if I'm pregnant or postpartum or how I am now or how I am when I was married. If I try to say, oh, I was in better shape 2 or 3 years ago, he'll say, you looked amazing. I didn't even notice. He is my biggest fan, and he always has been, and he's never set the standard that I am anything other than his dream woman. Now, am I saying that we need to date and marry people who are our dream looks? No. The point is the heart behind it. Husband was never worried about gassing up my confidence because he wanted me to feel confident. He still wants me to feel confident. And a man who wants you to feel confident wants you to thrive. Men who want to plant insecurity in you, they wish for your demise. And who wishes for your demise? Your biggest enemy, your op. Sometimes your biggest opponent in life is the person sleeping next to you. Just because someone says they love you doesn't mean they do, okay? Like I said, some of us have had to learn that the hard way. But I think looking back on my life, like I haven't had that bad of experiences with men. And I think part of the reason is because I would cut them loose at the earliest signs of, oh, you hate me. Okay, bye. I will always find someone who will appreciate me and love me as much as I appreciate and love them. And can I pause in this video to say, yes, this goes the other way around. Plenty of women date men and they hate them and they're disrespectful and it's awful and a mess, but that's not the topic of today's video. Our audience is female and that's what we're focused on with straight relationships. The heart behind a man who cherishes you, respects you, loves you, is a man who wants you to feel amazing. I'm not saying to the point of lying to you, like, oh, honey, you're so good at everything you do. But there is, like, no reason to be making someone feel insecure for how God naturally made them, i.e., I'm a blonde. I'm a curvy, tall blonde. And if that's not your type, why did you ask me out? Go away. Don't neg me on my appearance because I'm fine just the way I am. And I'd like to say to you today in this YouTube video via the internet, sweetheart, you are fine the way you are. You do not need to change your appearance to please whatever loser man is telling you you're not his ideal type. We should all be healthy. We should all try to be in good shape and live healthy lives and take care of the temple God gave us. But we don't need to drastically alter ourselves or to try to fit a mold, because newsflash, if a guy is saying that to you, you can change into his ideal type and you still won't be good enough, because his ideal type is someone who's crushed down into the ground beneath his feet because he's inherently uncomfortable with a woman who's happy with herself, a woman who feels comfortable around him. It's a control tactic that many men, and I'm sure women, but again, we're focused on men, do. Because if they have you feeling uncertain about yourself, maybe you're going to try harder to please them. Maybe you're going to feel uncomfortable about them. You're going to be a little more needy. You're going to text them more. You're going to be more available. You're going to maybe even give more of your body to them, because it's like, oh, you said that I'm not your type, but maybe I can convince you, like, come on over. No, it's a trap. Don't do it. These men hate you. They hate you. They don't respect you. And you know what? The way to make a guy like that respect you isn't by becoming his type or fitting whatever mold. The way to make him respect you, unfortunately, is walking away and not returning. And I'm sure a lot of my exes do respect me for that, but they don't get to be in a relationship with me. So insecure men, avoid insecure men. That's ultimately what this comes down to, and I've said it in other videos. Avoiding marrying or engaging with or dating insecure men is the number one thing you can do to keep yourself safe in this life. Okay? Because who's going to take advantage of and be cruel to a homemaker? An insecure man. Who's going to be lazy at home and thrust most of the childcare and like physical labor, as well as a career and a 50-50 split on a career woman? An insecure man. Insecure men cannot handle to have their partner thriving, and we need to mark and avoid. That's what we say in the Christian church about false prophets. Mark and avoid. And I would like to say about these men, mark and avoid. And let's also take a moment to acknowledge we can't predict a good man based on paper. You can be a Christian, align with your political beliefs, liberal or conservative. You can have your, okay, maybe not even Christian, your same religion. You can have, he matches your physical type, he gets along with your family, all this stuff on paper that looks so good, and he can still be awful, okay? People are not more likely. There are conservative Christian men out there who hate women, and I think we can get defensive on the homemaking Christian traditional side of the internet and act like these men don't exist. But I'm not out here to protect bad people, no matter what their beliefs are. Also, I would like to pause and say, we can't pretend that women don't like to paint red flags green. So many people looking back on their relationships after they end or divorce or whatever, they're like, oh, well, he was actually a piece of crap the whole time. And the friends and family are like, we had no idea. And then the girl is like, well, I either hid his flaws to protect him or protect the reputation of our relationship, or I didn't want to hear the truth from my friends or family. If that's you, I encourage you to take a look in the mirror today and ask yourself if you've been lying to yourself. I promise you that no romantic relationship is ever worth putting yourself in a situation where you are being disrespected, not treated well, not treated biblically, okay? We need to protect ourselves. We're the first line of defense against these people. That's why scripture says to guard your heart. That's why there's so many proverbs about the types of friends you keep. And with modern dating, we don't have arranged marriages. We kind of go out and we choose these people. That's like going out and choosing a friend, like back in terms of scripture, like the proverbs. We're choosing friends for life. And these people rub off on you. They inform how you see yourself. And just as we shouldn't surround ourselves with toxic friends, these men, we need to be careful. So why do women choose bad men? I really think insecurity is at the heart of it, as well as potentially wounds in your heart from perhaps how a parent has treated you, or maybe an ex in the past, or how we view ourselves, just like a lowly view of ourselves. And I think as Christians, we're supposed to be humble. We're not supposed to be vain or prideful. But we're also supposed to see that we're made in the image of God, and there's inherent value there. And when we hold that truth, we don't go and marry that guy who is flirting with girls in drama club and wants me to be a nurse and also like was making fun of my nose the other day. You know, we don't marry that guy because he isn't going to uphold the scriptural call to love your neighbor as yourself and to lay down your life for your wife. Okay? I think it's important to remember when a man tells you how he feels about you, believe him. Don't try to prove yourself to men. I could feel that temptation in all of those different short or long-term relationships where I'm not your type, or like whatever other negging thing they said to me. I could feel the temptation to want to prove myself. And in one of the relationships I did, I'll become thinner and I'll, dress like a J. Crew model and we'll make it work. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's not who I was. And the temptation to prove yourself to a man makes you take your identity and value from how he sees you rather than how God sees you. I think a solution to these types of men and the traps they set is to stop believing these things. Stop believing I can fix him. I'll become his dream woman. He loves me. He just doesn't know how to express it. He's just joking. It's not that serious. I need to toughen up, etc., etc. It's not your job to fix a man. You don't get a badge of honor. All you get is scars. All you have from that is pain. It's not your job to fix a man, and a man who lets you fix him doesn't respect you because it's his business and it's his sin and it's his life, and you're not going to earn or win anything, any type of competition, because I think sometimes why we rise to the occasion to become that man's ideal type or prove him wrong is because we're not inherently comfortable with ourselves. But like little old me, 16-year-old who's comfortable with herself, you tell me I'm not your type. Goodbye. I'm somebody else's type. See you later. We cannot center our lives and our identity and our value based on men. I think there's a criticism of the homemaking community that people don't like the idea of it because it seems very male-centric, very patriarchy-focused. Like you have these women who run around serving their husbands, and they run around and their life centers around men, and they're just there to breed for him and give him children and make his home life so happy, and it's all about men. It feels very centered on men. I don't view it that way, and I also don't live that way. My life is centered on Christ. My life is focused on becoming the person God made me to be, on exploring talents and creation and friendship, and becoming a wife and a mother and having the privilege of staying home has not made my life centered around men or patriarchy or the male gaze or anything. Falling in love, romantic love with my husband and building a family with him has nothing to do with that stuff because I'm not centered on husband and his view of me. I care about making sure he's thriving in life just the way I want him to care about me thriving, but I don't do every little thing in my life to please him or to make sure I'm his ideal woman. We kind of went over that in my recent marriage video and my What is Going On video. A lot of homemakers do wrongfully present this image where we're dressing up for men and we're like letting our husband inform our hobbies and our clothes and the way we do our makeup and like everything. And that's centering yourself. It doesn't matter that you're married, honey girls. It's still centering yourself on your husband. Okay, there's so much like push in the Christian world where it's like, don't value, don't make an idol of relationships, single girls. Like, don't wait around for God's purpose just until you're married. Like, don't idolize marriage. But then we're not saying to wives, don't idolize marriage. It's the same message. It doesn't matter if you're married or not. You should not idolize your marriage. The call to have your husband be the leader of your house scripturally is not a call to make him your idol or your God, like I said in my other video. That extends to dating. We should not be pursuing this at all costs. I do think homemakers might be a little bit more at risk of settling for these bad men because what you want is to become a mother and a wife. And sometimes people do that at all costs. They will take that bad guy and be like, you know what, we're just gonna make it work. But I urge you not to idolize this stuff so much that you put yourself in a precarious position that is not biblical. You need to be pursuing a relationship with someone who has the capability and desire to treat you biblically, which isn't to order you around and be nasty, but to be Christ-like. How wonderful would it be to be married to a truly Christ-like man? I can vouch for it. It's wonderful. But we should not spread this message that becoming a mother and a homemaker is so important. It should be done at all costs. And I've said this in my last 2 commentary videos, and I'm going to keep saying it because it needs to be said. We need to value who we are as people beyond the identity of homemaking. And if that's your criticism of career women, that it's their whole life and blah, 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 consider that it might be for you too. Just because we love something doesn't make it an idol, but likewise, we shouldn't center our identities around it. Christ is our identity. The fact is that becoming a homemaker doesn't necessarily mean your life is centered around men. Wanting to be a stay-at-home wife or a mother, on paper, sure, it's centered around man in the sense I don't get to eat next week if he stops paying all our bills and we lose all our money. But then I would go to work and we would sort it out because we're a couple. It's not that my life is centered around a man. It's that my focus is family and thriving as a family. And that's not wrong. And I think it's important as homemakers to remember to decenter yourself from men, whether or not you want to be a homemaker or not. Living life where your decisions are centered around men and the male gaze is such a quick way to feel insecure. It's such a quick way to end up in a bad situation. The beautiful thing is you can still have what you want in life, being a wife and a mother and a homemaker, while being decentered from men. There are realities of this world. That's why I have videos on attracting traditional men or, dressing in a way that they like or being feminine, leaning into femininity for the positive benefits it gets you in your relationships. But that doesn't mean my identity is centered on men. It just means I understand how this world works. Decentering from men isn't something that's exclusive to being a fourth wave feminist or something like that. Because a lot of those people are still centered around men, thinking about men all the time, like dressing in a way that repels them and really focused on the patriarchy and all that stuff. That's still obsessive and centered on men, just in a negative way. My solution is to remain balanced and to not obsess in a negative or a positive way, like I'm going to get them all to like me, I need to become the ideal image of a woman, or I need to become the anti-hero woman or whatever. Ignore that altogether. And when it's time for your romantic love to happen and you meet your man, it's not because you were trying to be his ideal woman or because he fought through all of your guards up. It's just because he knows you. I think since the beginning, and I've said this in almost every video, I've always talked about balance. And it's really important to remember your value doesn't come from how many men are attracted to you or how good a guy looks on paper or whatever. It's your value comes inherently from being made in the image of God. Your value withstands whether or not there's even a man out there who wants to be with you. Don't think it's wrong to engage in femininity. I know this might seem like crazy to hear coming from somebody like me, who talks about femininity and traditional marriage. But I think that's why it's important to say these things and why it's important to have these conversations, because there's this nuance here where we can be homemakers and mothers and be cherished at home with men who take care of us and love us and value us without exploiting us. As a member of the homemaking community online, it would be a disservice of me to pretend that it's easy. Like, just go out, find a man, tell him you want to be traditional, and stay home and your life's going to be great. Just like I think it's a disservice to look at women and say, avoid marriage, go get a career, never stay home, travel the world, and your life's going to be great. Those aren't the things that make a great life. The thing that makes a great life is your personal experience with people, how supported you are, your personal growth, your relationship with the Lord, and just understanding your inherent value and not surrounding yourself with people who seek your demise. And this goes for friends too. I think it's sometimes easier to spot in friends, like, oh, this person's actually an opponent. Like, they're an op. They don't want me to thrive. That can happen with a man who even says he loves you. On a walk recently, I was really just thinking, why is it that there's like these two sides? You have people who preach homemaking at all costs. You have people who preach feminist careers at all costs. And why is it that one side will never convince the other and vice versa? is because it's not homemaking and it's not careers that are bad. It's the surrounding variables within it, the support networks, the type of career, the type of husband you have, how your husband treats you, how your boss treats you, how supported you feel as a homemaker. Because when you replace a bad network as a homemaker with a supportive network, a supportive husband, you feel emotionally and mentally supported, you'll have an amazing experience as a homemaker. Likewise, with careers, if you have the career of your dreams, you have a boss who's super supportive, you have a nice life balance, you feel very satisfied, you're going to have a nice life. So the key isn't to prescribe a certain lifestyle, like I said in my previous video, because homemaking is not a prescription for a happy lifestyle, and neither is a focused career. It's what you do with the lifestyle you're within, and how supported you are in there. And so I think instead of having these two sides where women are divided and fighting against each other about what's the right lifestyle, we need to add complexity and nuance and layered understanding to this argument to see that it's the support networks surrounding those lifestyles. And the real enemy to women isn't becoming a homemaker if that's what you want, or career woman if that's what you want. The real enemy is the lack of support and the lack of care and the lack of good men and good husbands or jobs that make sense for women, okay? There is so much nuance and complexity here, and to dumb it down to say all homemakers are LARPing 1950s robots and all career women are banshee screeching cat ladies. I love cats, that's not an insult, I'm just parroting the arguments. To dumb it down to that level is ridiculous and further brings division for no reason. I would say, though, the reason is virality, because when you're extreme on one end or the other, you're going to get people who are screaming and wanting nuance, and so that's why you get, negative feedback, right? And if you look in my comment section, hi, everyone who comments, and you are a career woman and you love being here, because we're united on the fact, not about being a homemaker or being traditional or whatever. We're united based on our desire to live a lifestyle where we're supported, cherished, and blossoming, okay? My channel has always been about getting women to a place where we are supported, cherished, and blossoming. And from my perspective and my personal experience, I share as a homemaker from how homemaking has amplified my life, helped me come out of my shell, helped me get into shape and feel beautiful and have time with my family, and it's so positive. And there's women who have wonderful careers and they've been able to lift their families out of poverty and have a wonderful use of the skills that God has given them, So I really think it's important to not just look at something and label it bad and just move on with your day, rather than seeing the people and complexities behind these lifestyles. What I've learned from my time as a homemaker is that the things that help you thrive as a homemaker aren't what people sell you online. It's not about being able to pull in a little money from a side hustle, or making the perfect loaf of sourdough, or having natural childbirth at home, or having a homestead or whatever. The stuff that helps you thrive as a homemaker is, number one, having a husband who supports and cherishes you. So as I bring this video to conclusion, I just want to reiterate again, the concept of a man who hates you isn't necessarily that guy who's obvious with it. It's sometimes the worst situations is where they're sinister with it, and it slowly breaks down who you are over many years, constantly being told no, that you're not good enough, that you're just being them being critical, being pushed into situations that don't suit you, misalignment of values, misalignment of goals. All these kind of things are so important when we're looking at building a life together. So saying to girls, don't become a homemaker, you're going to be exploited, the reason that argument will never work is because once you swap out a bad husband for a good husband, that girl could be living the life of Riley. We all know those girls who are Pilates queens, living in an old money estate, driving a Range Rover, and having tons of friends and family. It's dishonest to say that all stay-at-home moms are being exploited. It's dishonest to say homemaking is a fast track to exploitation, because all of us can look at that homemaker we all follow online, and she's in Italy again, or she's in Portofino with her mother-in-law, or her kids are happy and thriving and she's happy, and we can see that it's just not true. And likewise, the argument that all careers are bad, it's just not true. I personally love my female OBGYN. I would not want a male OBGYN. I was happy when I had to file a police report one time about some, creep. I was happy that they sent a female police detective. I'm happy for the female dental hygienist or whatever. I'm happy for my female teachers. It's just ridiculous to say that women, should all stay home or all be homemakers and never have a career when we're out here enjoying the fruits of many people's labor. And that's why I just seek to erase the divide and to stop the rhetoric and the narrative that it's one or the other, and to instead unite against the sinister force that is bad men, unsupportive jobs, unsupportive societies to women's real needs. And when we're unpacking insecurity, it's so helpful to read up on this stuff, to look back into our past to see why we're feeling that way, to make sure we're trying to live a healthy lifestyle so we can also just feel good about ourselves. As we decenter from men and all of that and bad men, think about your hobbies that you used to love and enjoy as a child. Think about your friends and your family. Spend time with them. Engage in hobbies. Engage in outdoor activities. Maybe go on a track for a career. Focus on achievement, whether that's achievement in a career or decorating or beauty or working out. Instead of being obsessed with getting married or obsessed with becoming a homemaker someday, become obsessed with just being the best version of yourself. Plug into your church, plug into your relationship with the Lord, and focus on being creative and enjoying the little bits of life. That's ultimately what my channel is about more than anything. It isn't about the end goal of a certain lifestyle. It's the end goal of thriving. So that is all I have for you guys today. Please leave your thoughts below. I think this is going to be a really juicy topic. I anticipate a really interesting comment section, and I apologize, if you lost me somewhere along the way, but these are just thoughts I want to continue unpacking on my channel. And I think now that I have experience as a mother, my perspective on some of this has become more firm. I wouldn't say I was naive before, but now that I'm a mother, I really see how important it is to be with that partner, that person who's going to hold your hand and walk through life, through the hard times, through the ugly times when you're not feeling your best, you're not looking your best, and you need support and help. That's why I feel so strongly about not just snagging any guy you can get, but really holding out for someone who's worthy of you. So that is all. If you haven't yet, please like the video, like and subscribe. I'm going to be trying to post more. I think I have a vlog coming up as well. Follow me on Instagram if you want to see my day-to-day life, how I'm thriving in life, or at least trying to. But I do want to just say thank you for being here. I think it's almost been 4 years, 5 years now. It's been a while, and I just appreciate every one of you. So many of you have been here since day one, and I'm curious too for your thoughts and maybe how your ideas have evolved through, whatever you've been through for the past 4 or 5 years. The pandemic changed a lot of things for us. There's just been a lot. But in general, I hope you guys just have a wonderfully blessed and thoughtful, hobby-filled, cherished week, my beautiful sisters. Remember when I used to do a bit of behind the scenes? This is my new behind the scenes. Yeah. I love you. You want to say hello? Maybe remember when I used to add an extra scene with Kiki back in the olden days?
Come on, guys.
Smile.
Come on, guys.
Smile.
Go.
Good job. Okay, listen to Dada. Okay? Okay, thank you. I love you.
I love you.
Come on. Let's go. Say bye to Mama.